Hey, what's going on, Ers Overtaking here, and welcome back to a brand new video on F1 2018, the game. And today a trailer has dropped and some information about the brand new game. Obviously last week it got announced, we got to see the new logo, and we just got some small little snippets about the game. But today we actually have some more juicy details from the press release, and the video itself is just a lap of the Monaco Grand Prix circuit, driven by the actual Charles Leclerc, obviously the home man in Monaco. And so nice little gameplay, but not too much to really read into. But anyway, let's get on to the juicy information from the press release, because this is pretty damn big in terms of the way you and me are going to be driving around on the F1 2018 game. As you can tell by the title, ERS is in the game. Here is the snippet from the press release. One of the several key improvements to the car physics system is also revealed briefly in the Monaco footage. Lee Mather, the game director on the F1 games, explained the inclusion of a player-managed ERS system or energy recovery system has been added to the vehicle physics for F1 2018, as we always strive to give an as authentic recreation of the sport as possible. Augmenting the powerful internal combustion engine, the player will have multiple deployment modes to choose from. The inclusion of ERS will not only give the player a more authentic Formula 1 experience, but will serve to create even more varied and exciting races. That is awesome. Actual manual ERS. This is literally something I talked about that I hope they were going to put in soon enough into the game when I made previous videos on F1 2018 ideas and F1 2018 mod videos on other games that had their own version of ERS deployment. I always said it was something that I wanted to see. It wasn't a #1 priority, but you got to think in terms of actual gameplay changing things they could have added to the game. This is a pretty big one. It does change the gameplay quite drastically, because remember back to the days of Ers on F1 2012, 2013, 2011, beforehand, when we had that, pressable button to deploy Ers. Now, it's not going to be the exact same thing, but it's obviously going to be the more complex ERS version. So you have different multiple deployment modes that Lee Mather has talked about there in that quote. So multiple deployment modes. So hopefully that's going to mean stuff like ERS harvesting, ERS overtake mode, ERS normal mode. So you can have a normal mode where you're just racing about, then you have an overtake mode potentially where you click it and it really boosts through the power through the engine, and so you can get really extra oomph of power to try and overtake someone in a straight line. So you probably deploy that on the straights only. You hopefully will have an ERS harvesting mode, I'm guessing. Obviously in the past with Codemasters, they've always tried to simplify the complex systems in F1 as much as they can so that it still works a lot like what it does in real life, but at the same time it's accessible to everyone, not just the kind of full-on hardcore F1 nerd. The casual fan picking up the game with a controller, not even a wheel, can, pick up the systems, they can learn how it works, and they can deploy them fully and use them, to the best and fully advantage that they wanted to use. So with the fuel, they've got lean, standard, and rich mix, so I wouldn't be surprised if the ERS system, this is just fully a guess on my part, but it's going to be kind of ERS harvesting, like I said, the normal mode, ERS overtaking mode. I don't know, in an ideal world, maybe they have 2 more modes in between the standard and harvesting and the standard and overtake mode, so you kind of just have ERS high and ERS low potentially. That's kind of a good countermeasure. So in total, maybe 5 different modes. We're not told how many number of modes, we just said multiple, so at least 3 I would say, but that is awesome. It's going to be like the good old days of F1 2013 backwards in terms of, especially for career mode races and also multiplayer races. It's going to change the way you race in terms of, wanting to overtake an AI car if you're in a slower car, but you've saved up all your ERS. Maybe you've used ERS harvesting earlier on the lap, and so later on the lap, when you go onto that brand new lap onto the main straight with DRS as well, maybe you put the car into ERS overtaking mode, and you try and push the pass, essentially, and try and get past them as quickly as you can. We've seen so many drivers in real life use that. Obviously, the engineers tell them, use the overtake mode now, and so they press a button, and they try and overtake them as fast as they can, because they only have a certain amount of ERS deployment. So also, again, that's going to be something pretty big they change in the game for the heads-up display. The heads-up display is now going to have to show the ERS bar, or at least some sort of indication of how much ERS electrical energy you have to deploy into the engine, and therefore trying to make the pass. If you look closer at the steering wheel, there are 3 different bars on the heads-up display on the actual steering wheel itself, and I'm guessing that will be replicated on the actual on-screen heads-up display in the bottom right when you actually can see it in non-replay camera shots of the game on board. But but it looks like 3 different bars that are filling up and also resetting as Leclerc crosses the line on his flying lap. So I think one of them on the left-hand side has a D on it and then H on the right. So potentially draining and harvesting maybe, and then the bottom one might be an overall battery pack solution, but definitely 3 different bars we've not seen on the previous F1 games that are definitely going up and down as the lap goes on. So I suggest that's definitely going to be linked to the ERS system, and obviously with multiple modes, those 3 bars could definitely be played around with potentially, and the rate that they drop will probably change depending on the mode you're in for ERS. Because in real life, it's not actually been advantageous to drain your entire ERS battery pack for the entire lap. You want to save a little bit just to kind of tick you over in the normal ERS mode where it kind of just normally deploys it, and then usually you see drivers completely reset itself, and again, they don't use the entire thing throughout the Grand Prix, throughout each lap. So kind of like that with a game, maybe strategically, maybe you're not going to want to use the entire thing over the entire lap, but I would probably say that's maybe leaning towards the too complex side. I would say maybe it's going to be a lot like the Ers system, but like I said, maybe they're going to try and make it a bit more complex with 5 different modes rather than just 3. Obviously, Ers was just a one-tap sort of thing. You hold it down for the number of seconds, whereas this will maybe be a more automatic kind of system. You will notice if you pause the video on the onboard of the Sauber Alfa Romeo, you can tell that it's not quite the 2018 model, especially if you compare it to the real-life onboards, but I suspect what this is a kind of merge between the 2017 and the 2018 car, because that's what Cody's have done a lot of the time in the past with the F1 games. When they start to ramp up the kind of hype and with the trailers and whatnot, and when they announce the game, what they do is they're at a stage in the game development cycle where they've got the 2017 car and they've kind of merged it with some of the 2018 rules. Obviously, this year, the only major rule was the halo added on, and of course the shark fin, but most of the gameplay is all just on board. So I think what they've done is they've just put the halo on to potentially one of the old 2017 cars. You can also tell by the steering wheel itself as well. The steering wheel is not the same shape as the actual Sauber one in 2018, and then just generally they've also tried to avoid, they've avoided pretty much every single kind of angle of any third-person camera shot. It's all on boards, either on the T-cam or on the nose cam itself. So I would think that it's going to kind of be a merge of the two, and I suspect it's also going to play into, this will be the version of the Sauber Alfa Romeo you guys can play when the beta comes out. Obviously, F1 2018 does have a beta that will be launching in, live hopefully pretty soon, within a month or so, and I suspect all the cars in that beta are going to be 2017, 2018 kind of hybrid cars, if you will. So apart from that biggest thing that was revealed in the press release that Codemasters sent out, the other thing they said was regards to the visuals unveiled in the Monaco footage. Now, generally, it's going to be really hard to really pick out major things from the trailer itself. Obviously, it's work in progress as well. Like I said, the car's not exactly final, but the actual track itself may be more towards the final product in terms of the lighting system and everything like that, and that's exactly what they touched upon in terms of one of the biggest visual uplifts. Quoting the press release, one of our biggest visual uplifts for F1 2018 are our revised lighting, sky, clouds, and atmospheric systems. These systems work hand in hand and affect all aspects of the game rendering and make it more believable than ever before. Our new cloud tech more accurately represents the real world with improved cloud formations and response to light through the various weather scenarios that are a huge part of F1. Even on a clear day, the sky looks interesting with a high-level cloud detail and jet trails, and with new atmospheric systems, it gives a true sense of depth in the scene and connects with the sky and terrain in a more cohesive manner, making for some stunning vistas. So, a lot of PR babble, but essentially what they're trying to say is everything has just been worked on a lot more, especially with the lighting system, the way the track is going to look, which I think is a good thing, because at times in F1 2017, it was sometimes a bit confusing, especially on intermediate to full wet conditions. Sometimes it would look so much brighter than maybe you would think for intermediate, and vice versa, so much darker than it would look for full wets or the intermediates, and it was sometimes a little bit confusing in that kind of way, and sometimes also it was sometimes a little bit deceiving on how dark it would sometimes get, and you'd almost be like, okay, surely it's going to start raining now pretty soon, and it just never would come. And also when the rain would start to fall itself, it was very hard sometimes to really tell the water was there on track or on the car, so hopefully this new lighting system can kind of help with that. Obviously the trailer at Monaco is just fully in the daytime, so it's hard to really see. There was a shot of the kind of full Monaco circuit, and it's kind of clear to see it definitely is work in progress, because there are a few rough edges here and there, but generally it looks good. But I honestly can't tell too much of a difference to F1 2017, but I'm going to take the press briefing's word for it. But obviously the biggest thing is this new ERS system, which I really wish they showed in a more detailed way, but maybe that's going to come hopefully in the next month or so, or even like a week's time. I don't know. Cody's, please show us some more, because we got a little of verbal kind of talk about it in the press briefing, but we didn't really see too much of a visual aspect apart from that steering wheel dial and bar draining in the video. But that's going to be the details from F1 2018, what we know so far from the press release. Obviously, also there was a few small little things at the end of the press briefing as well. So apart from the strong visuals and inclusion of player management ERS, F1 2018 boasts a number of other new features and improvements. There are more classic cars for the players to drive, and the much heralded career mode has been expanded to further immerse the player into the world of Formula 1. That's not too much new from the first announcement we got. F1 2018 will also feature the official drivers, team circuits, and blah blah blah. All the kind of stuff for all the newbies and all the kind of proper press people that want to put that on their website. But that's all the stuff we know. It's going to have the French Grand Prix, etc., German Grand Prix. But yeah, still they're still talking about improvements and further immersion for the player in career mode. So we're yet to really even hear about those features, and we're yet to hear about an old feature that was brought back, because I don't think you can include the ERS, because that's not an old feature. That's an entirely new feature. You can kind of maybe half compare it to Ers, but I don't think it would be right for them to say that's the old feature. So it's definitely not. So that's still to come. So I'm really intrigued still to find out what that is, and that probably will be the interviews. Obviously, the mantra is make headlines, so it would best to assume it's going to be interviews, but they've not even mentioned it yet, which is surprising. If that's going to be their big mantra, make headlines thing, it's surprising they haven't kind of mentioned it even in this press briefing. The thing they mentioned, obviously, is the pretty big gameplay changing ERS system, which obviously is big. So, guys, if you have enjoyed the info and are liking the sound of that ERS system in the F1 2018 game, then be sure to smash the like button. Let me know what you thought in the comments below of the trailer itself, and also the news you just heard about the ERS system and everything else on F1 2018. If you are new around here, do get subscribed. Like I said with the announcement video, as soon as news drops, as soon as any new trailers, screenshots, etc. drop, you can be sure that I'll be covering it on the channel as soon as I can. So do definitely get subscribed for all that good stuff in the future. But yeah, I've been Aarava. Hope you enjoy the rest of the day, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.